is Adrian Granados, and you're watching True School Sports.
My flow, my show brought me to go. That brought me all my fancy things. My crib, my cars, my clothes, my jewels. Look, homie, I done came up and I ain't changing. You should love it way more than you hate it. Oh, you mad? I thought that you'd be happy I made it.
Hey, what's going on? It's your boy BT, and I came here to talk some boxing with the thousands of True School Sports subscribers. Now, big shout out to my Florida Panthers, my favorite NHL team, Broward County's Florida Panthers, South Florida's Panthers. You know, shout out to them, even though they're not relevant to this video or even the world of hockey. But gotta show love to my hometown team. But wanted to speak about something interesting because, you know, in wake of the Anthony Joshua loss to Andy Ruiz Jr., which has sent just shockwaves to the boxing world. You know, it's a week after the fight, and we're still here talking about it because that's how big of a loss this was for his career. And we're gonna continue talking about it on True School Sports because a lot of people are chiming in on this, and you know, two very notable people have chimed in on this. Most notably, Triple G, Gennady Golovkin, who's fighting tomorrow against Steve Rolls. He's, you know, basically come out and said that Joshua was terrible and that different doping tests, you know, drug tests may have affected him in the fight. Now, it's no secret that in the UK, Joshua is subject to the UK's anti-doping, you know, 365 a year testing, UCAD testing over there. You know, but this is his first fight in the States under Vada drug testing, and we know that Vada drug testing is the most stringent, efficient, and best drug testing in all of boxing. And we know that with Vada drug testing, you know, it's the only testing in boxing where we're consistently catching cheaters, guys who are offenders, repeat offenders. They're being caught with Vada drug testing. So being that this was Anthony Joshua's first Vada drug test, and he looked so poorly after his first Vada drug tested fight, you know, it's brought up a lot of questions and a lot of scrutiny, a lot of criticism for him from fighters all over the sport. One of them is Gennady Golovkin. So here's what he said in regards to Anthony Joshua. He said, I quote, "You can look at various elements, various links to speak in this chain. First of all, it was his first fight in the United States. It was his first fight at Madison Square Garden. First fight with different doping test procedures. It will probably be a big lesson and an important lesson for Joshua to learn. And I also know that Andy Ruiz, I know I trained together with him. I'm not surprised with the outcome of this fight. It's different to say exactly what happened because I was not part of Joshua's team. What I can say is he looked terrible in his last fight. Looking at it impartially and objectively, Joshua was terrible. It was his terrible day. Ruiz was great. It was his great day. That's how you can judge this." So Golovkin is just pointing out the fact that there was a lot of new factors in Joshua's fight coming into the fight that night. You know, it was his American debut. It was his first fight with Vada drug testing. You know, it was his first fight at Madison Square Garden. So it was a lot of moving parts of Joshua. And then when you add the fact in that he was training for Jerome Miller. Miller fails a drug test. And then they get a guy who's as dangerous as Ruiz on short notice. You know, it was really tough for Joshua, and that's not making any excuse. I give full credit to Ruiz. Ruiz beat the shit out of him, and we're not gonna make no excuse for Anthony Joshua because he got his ass whooped from pillar to post against Anthony Ruiz. But Golovkin is pointing this out, and it is something to think about. You know, did his performance drop because he was Vada drug tested? You know, I know. I'm not going to sit here and act like I know the extreme differences between Vada testing and UCAD testing, but I do know that Vada has a big reputation for catching cheaters in boxing. Not to say that Anthony Joshua is or isn't a cheater, but saying they have a reputation for catching cheaters in boxing. It was his first fight with Vada testing, and it was the worst performance of his career. So could there be a direct correlation? I don't think it's crazy. Now, Dillian Whyte also came out and had a lot to say about Anthony Joshua's performance and the fact that Anthony Joshua looks so piss poor with Vada drug testing. You know, I'm gonna pull that up right now as I'm talking to you guys, but you know, it's something as boxing fans objectively, because you gotta understand. Look, I like Joshua. I'm a fan of Joshua. I'm hoping he comes back. I hope he comes and he beats Ruiz in the next fight, and then I hope he fights Wilder because I think he'll still smash up Wilder. I haven't maintained that. I haven't minced my words or backed down on that. You know, I think he still beats Deontay Wilder. But to get to what Dillian Whyte said, he really feels strongly that because Anthony Joshua wasn't on the juice and because he was on Vada testing, that's why he fought so horrible. So here's what he said in his interview on his YouTube channel. Here's what Dillian Whyte said. He said, I quote, Joshua could be heard on camera asking his trainer Rob McCracken, "Why do I feel like this after the 6th round?" It's because you're in America with Vada drug testing. You're not on the juice. That's why. It's harder to get therapeutic use exemptions in America than the UK. That's why. He has tested as much in the States. Oh no, who is this? A Joshua spokesman responded to what Dillian Whyte had to say and saying, I quote, "These comments are 100% false. Joshua is one of the most tested athletes in the sport and has been Vada and UK tested in the UK for all of his fights. He was tested as much in the States as he has been in the UK for every single one of his fights." Now, we've heard these things. I've heard Eddie Hearn say things like that Joshua is always being tested in the UK. And I'm not accusing Joshua of. I want to just get this very, very clear to anybody who may be watching this video. I am not under any circumstances accusing Anthony Joshua of being on performance-enhancing drugs. But I am also not going to be an idiot and not be naive and be a sheep and just ignore the fact that he could be on PEDs. You know, it's very possible. And I think that is a good point by Dillian Whyte. You know, why is it that he looked as fatigued as ever? You know, I know a lot of that has to do with Ruiz. Ruiz was breaking him down. Ruiz was touching him to the body. Ruiz was touching him up top. Ruiz was doing his part. He played his part. He played his role to push the pace, press the action, and get Anthony Joshua to fold up like a steel chair, straight up. So you got to give Ruiz his just due because he earned his just due on the night. But at the same time, while we're giving him his just due, we have to look at this objectively. You know, is it true? Is it true that Anthony Joshua could be using performance-enhancing drugs through therapeutic use exemptions that we know fighters can get? You know, most notably when we hear the term therapeutic use exemptions, or TUEs for short, we know that Floyd Mayweather consistently got temporary use exemptions or therapeutic use exemptions for a lot of his fights in Las Vegas. That's why he never left Las Vegas, because he was able to get TUEs in Las Vegas. He was able to inject lidocaine into his hands to numb his hands because he had hand problems, and this was one of the many ways and one of the many advantages Floyd had in his fights in Vegas. So, you know, we know that Joshua, we knew with Joshua and Hearn that it was never their first option to come to America. That has to be recognized and that has to be stated here on True School Sports. It was never their first option, but it became an option when none of these guys wanted to fight him or would take a fight with him in the UK for April 13th. And, you know, conquering the American market would seem to be the best way to go. And they came to America, and his American debut, in terms of the result for his career, it wound up being a massive flop. You know, it was a bigger flop than Kevin Federline's debut album that sold like no records. You know, it was horrible. It was absolutely horrible. It was what I said it would be. It was one of the biggest heavyweight boxing events this country's seen in quite some time. But it was not for the reasons that I said it would be. It was because the upset. It was because of the history that was made from Andy Ruiz becoming the first Mexican heavyweight champion, or Mexican American heavyweight champion. And that's why it was one of the biggest heavyweight fights and events this country's seen in quite some time. So, you know, fighters in boxing are speaking out against Joshua, saying that, look, hey, there was a lot of drug testing, and he fought like shit because of it. So, you know, you make of that what you will. I'll make of it what I will. But I'll be interested to see, because, you know, the funny thing is, if you guys notice, and you gotta look at these things objectively, he lost the fight against Ruiz. And rematch clause, no rematch clause, he is the B-side against Andy Ruiz Jr. because he lost. He has to earn the right, get the belts back, and put himself in that position of strength to negotiate from a position of strength and power, you know? But Eddie Hearn is saying he wants to fight in the UK. Now, in what world does the guy who loses a big fight get the rematch in his hometown? That doesn't happen, ever. So if that does happen, we have to really look at that and look at that objectively, you know? Joshua could be getting the fight back in the UK because maybe there is some truth. Maybe there is some validity to what Dillian Whyte is saying. Maybe he does get therapeutic use exemption, and maybe he is taking performance-enhancing drugs in a roundabout way through that, and that's just something that's not being highlighted in the boxing media because, you know, Anthony Joshua is the golden boy of British boxing. But we take these things seriously on True School Sports, and we look at them objectively. I think it's a possibility. Eddie Hearn, Matchroom Boxing, and all parties involved could want the rematch with Andy Ruiz in the UK for all the advantages that come with it, as well as allowing Joshua to use any sort of performance-enhancing drugs to give him that competitive edge to beat Andy Ruiz. So, I mean, I'm not saying that he's on PEDs, but when you look at how badly he fought in America during his debut, with Vada drug testing, and the fact that Eddie Hearn wants a rematch in the UK, it is a bit fishy, and I just wanted to highlight those points here in this video. So you guys let me know what you think in the comments down below. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. You know, take the time to subscribe, do all that good stuff. Make sure you follow me on Twitter. I just started using my Twitter account again. So if you want to keep up with what I got going on in boxing, and if you ever want to get a hold of me, you can reach me on Twitter at True School Sports. You will see a picture of me with my shirt off with a punching bag. Go follow me on there if you haven't already. Make sure you smash this like button right here, like it was your ex-girlfriend. You know, like your ex-girlfriend just hit you up via text and said she wanted some. You know, make sure you smash it like it was that. And you know, like I say in every single one of these videos, you can love me or you can hate me, but I'm just a kid from Ding. So until next time, take care, guys.
My name is Rachel McDonough, and this is my friend. Hi, I'm Susanna, and we're here at the beautiful Madison Square Garden for the big fight, and you are watching True School Sports.